No, this is not going to be that type of video. If he came here to listen to why I'm not that big of a supporter of Grovyle x Dusk Noir, or why I believe Guildmaster Wigglytuff is Arrow Ace and therefore has no romantic feelings for his assistant Chatot, no, we're not talking about Explorers of Sky as much as I'd wish. No, this is about PMD-Explorers, the deviant roleplay group that people always forget was massive back in 2011 to 2013. So yeah, this is going over ships within that community that are either well known or documented, so if I can't find evidence of that ship being well known, it won't be in this video. Also, later on in the video, I will be talking about a situation in which an adult has intimate acts towards a child. It's fictional, yes, but I'd like to give y'all a heads up in case you're not comfortable with that. You will be let know when that segment comes up. For now, let's just get started with something simple. This is the main ship, the one everyone associates when it comes to PMD Explorers and shipping. I'm going to do my best to explain this history briefly. While it's difficult to gauge the popularity of the ship before they officially became an item, which could be said for literally every other ship in this video, it's rather easy to tell exactly when the ship became official. Unfortunately, it's Resignation. For those that don't know, Resignation is a three-part story that involves Shroomsworth being tricked into resigning from his position at the Merchants Guild for Slasher, a secondary antagonist for Arc 1 who is a Weavile who uses child Sneasels as his slaves. PK sneaks out in the middle of the night to find out about this arrangement, and she stops him from going through with it. Afterwards, they return to the merchant base, talk seriously for a bit, get a little intimate, and that's where part 1 ends. At least that's what the wiki wants you to think. There's actually an extended version of this part where they have sex. Now, if you haven't seen my interview with the author of the story, Luvachi, I talked to him about this story in particular, and he mentions how that sex scene was never meant to be public in the first place. So then you have Glip taking that part of the story meant for private eyes and publicizing it in the worst way possible. It's one of the more infamous moments of the group, where Glip posted this image to her DeviantArt and basically encouraged their audience, which is mostly children because it's DeviantArt, to go off-site onto their Tumblr to read the rest of the story. It's really sickening because you have kids in the comments of this post saying they read it and got weirded out by everything that was happening. I do have the full version of Resignation, but I'm really hesitating on publicizing it myself, even on the PMD Explorers Museum. You see, unlike past Glip, I know DeviantArt is full of children and autistic individuals like myself. I saw things in there no kid should be exposed to. Back to the story, after they had sex, and I cried for that should have been me instead of that wretched purple rat, a bunch of stuff happened involving Slasher, Rhodes, and Sandy getting kidnapped, and then we get to a big moment in the story. PK, Shroomsworth, and Rhodes find Sandy alongside a group of Slasher's minions right next to a waterfall that looks to be pretty deep in height. The sleeping kidnapped Dino is about to be pushed down a waterfall to her death, and Shroomsworth, like the brave man he is, tries to tell the Sneasels that they're just Slasher's child slaves, and that he'll dispose of them when they're old enough, but Slasher doesn't want that information out there. So now Shroomsworth is injured, and he's got a broken leg. This is important. Luckily, I've studied every living cell in this organism, so I'll remember it so you don't have to. Skipping serious stuff, there's another implied sex scene, it's not fully written out this time, I checked. And then there's no more relationship stuff in Resignation after that. From then on, everyone started making ship art of these two. I think this is a good enough time to take a break and voice my own thoughts. You'll see why later. Now, in terms of their characters, I don't like this ship at all. From the beginning of the story, PK has always been shown as someone who doesn't take Shroomsworth as a character seriously. She makes fun of his British mannerisms and only seems to care when it's something business related. I can see her growing to like him and getting used to his character, but to me, it still feels a bit off. Even back when they first met, they had beef with each other. The only reason their partnership even started in the first place was because of business, and how both of them could utilize each other's strengths to their advantage, with Shroomsworth's ability to maximize profits, and PK owning the dank shop in the first place. Besides that, you have a hot-headed, gluttonous Kecleon and her dignified business partner Braylum that she doesn't take seriously sometimes. That's why the relationship comes out of nowhere for me. PK was the one who admitted her feelings for Shroomsworth, and the Braylum just reciprocated those feelings with a kiss. But I don't think that kiss was deserved, and neither was the sex. I deserve sex with Shroomsworth more than she does, and he's straight. Within the story, I haven't been able to find any evidence in development from these two, except for in Resignation. Lavachi did say they tried their best with what they were given because this group had multiple writers and such, and from what actually happened, it was a success within the group. But for me personally, I don't think even the writing can sway my opinions. I mean, if someone constantly made fun of my mannerisms and didn't take me mostly seriously, I'm expecting a huge apology from them, not a kiss on the lips and a hand in my pants. I think that's it for my opinions for now. Let's continue with the story. There's a dragon. It randomly speaks Minecraft enchanting table sometimes. PK sent some guild members to retrieve a book to decipher the language from a shut-in, but now she's doubting their ability to get said book, so time to personally go to Shroomsworth's hometown to get it yourself. Except, oh no! There's an artifact that manipulates plans and it's being used to block out the village from everywhere else because of the snow that Duke Nukem the Dragon has brought in. So after some convincing, PK learns that the Thistle Whistle is able to heal wounds, so she steals it and uses it to break Shroomsworth's other leg and cause him to fall and hit his head, giving him a concussion. Then, after some theory crafting with Mr. Mistreated Fresnel, she manages to heal him, and because Shroomsworth suffered a slight amnesia concussion, she keeps the secret of how his leg healed from him. Everything's all good, right? Duke Nukem is pissed, and everything is a blizzard. Sporeguard, who is Shroomsworth's brother, was trying to deliver a letter in the cold, but Elder Shroom, the leader of Sapling Village, goes out to protect him from the cold, and he ends up dying because of it. Then, in Mission 6, Shroomsworth finds out about Elder Shroom's death by letter, and now he's pissed at PK. He finally realizes a mistake in getting together with that Kegleon, and he leaves her and Tau Village. And good riddance too, that man is way too good for her. But that's not it! In the story, The Dates, PK goes on a date with a Persian named Twigs. We'll get to them later. During this date, PK steps out to get some fresh air, and she runs into this psychic love disc who tells her that the fate of Tau Village rests in her hands, and that she must patch things up, and that if she picks the wrong one, the village will be no more. Sounds vague, but it's obviously that they're referring to Shroomsworth in the situation. Yeah, now it's starting to sound really forced. Cut forward a bit into the story, and now half of everyone has been Thanos-snapped into the past thanks to Azorwork and Celebi shenanigans. With that, Shroomsworth is now running the guild for PK because of course he's a kind gentleman like that. So during the time that everyone is in the past, they all come up with a plan to write letters for everyone in the present by keeping them in a time capsule. Yeah, that makes sense. So PK's letter to Shroomsworth is about how she regrets what she did, and she's sorry for him, and Shroomsworth is in tears about it. I can understand why holding out a grudge for someone you've at least spent valuable time with when there's a life or death chance you may never see them again is not the best use of one's emotions, even if they're a terrible person, at least at this point with what the general public knew. And this is what I wished was explored more, PK opening up to Shroomsworth more and apologizing for her prior actions. If this was done before Resignation, this ship could have been decent, and I probably would have been invested a little up until the dates with the Psychic Love Disc. You lost me on that one. Seriously, why does the fate of Tau Village hinge on PK getting boned by a British Breloom? That sounds like something I would write in a terrible me x Shroomsworth ship fic. No, I'm not writing that down. Stop staring at me like that. Anyway, the only other thing with this ship that I can talk about is how in the Mission 8 epilogue, Shroomsworth and PK have been unable to reunite for whatever reason, despite everyone else in Tau being able to do so. This causes Shroomsworth to become anxious and wonders if PK actually went over to Twigs' place instead of returning to the town. And he also starts to have doubts about her and his return to Tau. PK, of course, goes insane because she can hear all this, but she's stuck in SL Ghost mode and the server doesn't have all talk enabled. And with the group closed, this ends the ship between PK and Shroomsworth. I don't like it at best. There was potential, but with a lack of cooperation, it just fell apart like a house made of sticks.
No! My demo home!
And that stupid love disc stuff obviously didn't help with it. So, Merlot is the owner of Castle Draclugia, which is one of the two major locations dividing Sapling Village and Tau Village. Merlot is old, she forces Pokemon to wear maid dresses and work for her, and she really has a crush on Shroomsworth. Shroomsworth, on the other hand, doesn't reciprocate those feelings. All this ship really entails is it's all about Merlot's unhealthy obsession on Shroomsworth and her sexually harassing the guy as much as PK does. Because Merlot and PK were created by the same person, so of course it is. No, that is not his true calling. That man is being forced to do things he clearly doesn't want to do. And people eat this up. I get that there are people who are into these forced relationships, it's just not for me. And that's not going into the infamous comic where Merlot forces sex onto an unwilling Shroomsworth. So for context, in Mission 2, the Merchants Guild is tasked with escorting Shroomsworth and a cart full of eggs to Sapling Village, but they have to go through either Castle Draclugia or the Creeping Woods, neither of which are good options. It's up to the player to decide which of the paths is the better option and how they're going to deal with the obstacles in whichever path they choose. But in one comic drawn by Glip, Shroomsworth takes the Castle Draclugia route with the intention of coming to an agreement with the old Lugia. But then Merlot shuts the door on him and tells him that he has to pay the price for entering, which is wearing a maid outfit. Then Merlot proceeds to violate Shroomsworth. Even the dialogue is just really uncomfortable. I can only show so much, but trust me, this was hard for me to look at. And because this is a porn comic for a story that's supposed to be family friendly, there's no way this would ever be considered canon, right? Oh yeah, there's a cheeky little reference to this comic in the canon Merlot interview. There is no denying it at this point, Shroomsworth was canonically raped. You can't convince me he was secretly into it, because that's not the face of a man who's enjoying it. He was blackmailed. Again, I get that there are people that are into this sort of thing. I won't judge them for being into it as long as they're not actively going out of the way to hurt anyone doing that. But this is a canon event in a story that was intended for all ages. But in terms of it being a good relationship, it's definitely not one of those. Let's be serious here. One of them clearly doesn't reciprocate feelings for the other, and by him declining her forced advances on him, it's not consensual. It's just not a good ship at all. To start us off, Twigs was based on Glip's cat of the same name. So PK's in the middle of making plans for Tau Village when her sister arrives and they both argue. Twigs arrives asking about shipments he was supposed to receive and then ends up getting Anana off PK's back. While doing this, he asks PK out on a date and she ends up accepting it because she knows it'll piss her sister off. Date happens. PK's still depressed because of her breakup with Shroomsworth, but maybe things aren't that bad with Twigs? Then there's that one moment where that love disc spouts bullshit and PK starts getting concerned about things related to Twigs. Then, after an amount of time, Twigs just shows up at the ranch and asks PK out on another date. Despite PK already having plans at the ranch, she's enticed by the promise of free gifts and just leaves to go with him. The merchant leader, everyone. So the two arrive at Alomomola City and they stop at the pier for whatever reason. Pokemon are surrounding them. And then Twigs brings out a box with gold rings in them. He proposes to PK for her hand in marriage. PK has no idea what to do until she spots Anana in the distance looking back at her, and that's what drove her to say yes. That's where this would have ended, but I have yet to mention their history together. PK had a friend named Charles, a Rattata, who was blind. Then Charles became ill, so she took him to a doctor and learned of something called the Tea of Life, which should cure Charles of his sickness. In order to get the ingredients, PK rummaged through her dad's belongings for things to sell for money. Then Twigs found out, but instead of reporting PK, he tried to court her because he assumed she was sneaky and stuff, okay? And her parents were okay with them being in a relationship, even wanting to arrange a marriage for it, because PK's dad wanted the other half of Tau Village in his custody, which was owned by Twigs' family for some reason. They were so into it that they neglected their other daughter for it. And then PK becomes sick and she assumes she's going to die. Her dad's also upset for a completely different reason, but anyway, apparently Twigs arranged for PK to take the Tea of Life to save her life, and it worked. But even after all that, PK still doesn't like Twigs that much. She sees their relationship as a cat-mouse thing, which I do agree upon. The fact that this is just Glip's self-insert a character based on their cap aside, this was definitely written to be one of those ships that you're not supposed to agree with, because of the in-lore implications, and by the way Twigs treats PK like she's some kind of trophy that he's supposed to win. And they definitely succeeded in that regard. And then Glip drew point of them. Yeah, this was on their NSFW account, and this wouldn't be bad if it was just the characters, but this is essentially Glip and their cat. That's all I need to say here, this ship is bad. I'll just say this right now, I ship these two out of the burning hatred I have for both of them. They're both just awful characters, and they were made for each other. PK's insufferable to be around, and Mike is just a big man-child. PK has a lot of men wanting her for some reason, including Mike, and Mike also has a few women who just want him for some reason. They're perfect. They're sitting together on a throne in hell, making out above the corpses of everyone they screwed over and brought to hell with them, and okay, so in order to understand this ship, we're going to have to separate Mike into pre-Mission 8 Epilogue and then Mission 8 Epilogue. Just like Shroomsworth, Mike was not too fond of PK, especially for the time she tried to take advantage of him, such as when she stole his food and he still had to pay for it, and forced him to pay a citizenship fee for his sister, even though he didn't have to do such things when he first arrived in Tau. But I guess something changed within Mike? I don't know what compelled Mike to do this. This guy's an enigma. But from then on, I guess he started to show a more caring side towards PK. Like, despite everything she's done to him, he doesn't hold any hard feelings towards her, even going as far as to comfort her and help her out when she's dealing with her feelings towards Shroomsworth and Anana. It's strange, really, but it feels like there could have actually been a connection there. At least maybe a friendship with these two could have blossomed, even if a romantic relationship was impossible because of that dumb, stupid love disc from the dates. And then Queeper Frog was kicked out of the group. That meant anyone in the group could do whatever they wanted with him, so Glip had planned to kill him off, but not before antagonizing him. In the Mission 8 Epilogue, after everyone returns to Tau, PK gets really anxious over meeting Shroomsworth again, so she runs away. And then Mike crashes out on Chill, and he leaves the village in frustration. The two meet up and run away together. Mike takes PK to a farm building his parents own, and then he tries to force himself onto her, so PK outwits him and runs away again. You'd think this is where the ship ended, but in actuality, the ship already ended when the words Queeper Frog was kicked out of the group came out of my mouth. I have already explained why, and I will get into another case of this later. But disregarding the Mission 8 Epilogue, I don't think this ship would have turned out good either, in seriousness. Mike's character and story to me sound like someone trying to join a D&D campaign with the goal of winning it. Being very lore relevant, getting a wife, becoming very strong. Reading the story, those are the kind of vibes I get from Mike. Though with how much of a spotlight hog PK herself is with all the attention she gets in the story, that's why I love to ship her with Mike. As I've said, they're both awful characters. I hate both of them, and they're perfect for each other. Mission 8 Epilogue Mike does not have the essence of Mike, but the essence of Glip wanting to get rid of a character associated with someone they don't like. Therefore, it just doesn't feel like the actual Mike. If Queeper Frog had stayed, Mike probably would have been written very differently, maybe even better and truer to his character than he was portrayed here. But as I've stated before, this is not a good ship. It's a friendship at most, but a relationship, hell no. That won't stop me from shipping them though. While we're here, does anybody know the name of a term where you ship two characters that you really don't like? I thought it was hate shipping, but that's shipping two characters that dislike each other. Which, while kinda technically true maybe in this case, it's not the same as me shipping two characters that I just really hate. I've been looking for an answer to this for months and I still haven't found it yet. Please don't let this be a case where we have to make up a new term. I'm really bad at naming things. Yeah, the wiki lists this as a ship under married IRL shipping, which is kind of weird because when I think of Marl, the first character of it I think of is Devonshire, which makes the ship even stranger. They have no connection, no meaningful interactions within the story. This ship only exists because, oh, they're married IRL, at least at the time. Let's ship their characters too, even if it doesn't make any sense. I guess why they didn't choose Devonshire was because of lore reasons. He's dead, reincarnated as a cursed ghost, lived on the lands as said ghost for many years, and may have some kind of connection with Darkrai, I think. Theorists get on that. But yeah, there's nothing much else to it. It's not even a ship. Okay, so before I get into this, I must mention that Crayon Chewer, the person who originally created Chill, left the group sometime before Mission 4. And then the group brought Chill back in Arc 2 because, as Marl puts it, Chill is owned by PMD-E now and doesn't belong to him. Therefore, there are two versions of Chill. There's Chill A, the version of Chill from when Crayon Chewer was still active, and Chill B, or as I want to call him, Skinwalker Chill. Chill x Gunpowder was the forbidden ship in a lore sense. A rescuer and a rogue being together? Sounds like a perfect Romeo and Juliet type romance. Even Chill's creator was in on it. Well, as much as this ship sounds promising, let's break down the characters themselves. Chill A, which reminders the Arc 1 Chill, was only characterized as this cool dude who does cool stuff and has lots of fans and, yeah, he's an archetype. He didn't have much going for him until Mission 4, where we learn he has a family he'll go out of his way to protect. But this part of the story is where Chill A ends. Chill was written out of the story temporarily following Crayon Chewer leaving the group. But then, Chill was brought back in Mission 8, though Crayon Chewer had no involvement with this. As said before, Marl said that the group owns the characters made by the creators, and that the creators had no say on what their characters did after they left, so the admins can do whatever they want with those characters. That also explains why Mike acted the way he did in the Mission 8 epilogue, because Glip was writing him. And just like with Mike, this version of Chill doesn't feel authentic. He's lost the cool guy character trait that, while as one-dimensional as it was, had promise for him to be a fun character. Now he's just goody two-shoes, and his first course of action is rescuing Gunpowder from being mummified or something. What makes this really interesting is that I've heard that Glip had problems with the Chill being cool being his only character trait, so make of that as you will. But just talking about Chill A and Gunpowder, I kinda dig it, but I also don't see it getting very far beyond its Romeo and Juliet premise, and for me it comes down to the setting. PMDE is this very serious setting with themes of romance, death, gambling, and other very adult things. Meanwhile, Chill is a character that's closer to what a character from the actual Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games would be. He feels out of place, and I think that's why he feels a bit one-dimensional to some people. It could work out if he was fleshed out a bit more, but as with Mike, that potential was thrown out the window as soon as Crayon Chewer left the group. So yeah, this ship is going under had potential. That's it. As much as I like this ship, it's more of a what-if kind of ship. Something that probably could have been a thing had the group continued, but as it stands within the actual canon, they have no real connection. Everything related to a relationship has only been just discussions from the creators after the fact. But as far as ships go, this is one that I have to say is the best out of all of them. Yeah, a theoretical ship is the best ship out of all the teased and canon ships. And it's a gay ship, too. Love wins. Yes, this is a real ship, but all evidence that I could find of it were a bunch of furry porn pics in a porn comic. You want to know what the relationship between these two in canon are? Fresnel doesn't like Mike. Mike dumped all of his guild leading responsibilities onto him, and the Ampharos had to pick up his work not knowing what the heck to do. Like, the only reason I can believe this ship exists is for gay porn. That's it. There's like 2 ships on the wiki that are supposed to be jokes, but I don't get what's so funny about them. Hold on, is this a joke about Shroomsworth's penis? Can I see it? I'm convinced that everyone who was a member of the group was too scared to stand up against Glip when they were making stuff related to them. To start, there was this comment left by Mikkel, who is PK's grandfather, simply asking if she liked them young like that too. That line holds a lot of implications as to the lore of PK's family, but you can obviously tell what that is. We're not going too deep into that. Then there was this image that Glip stated started out as porn but became wholesome instead. And then there was the Rhodes x PK story. The one that was written by the same guy who wrote the resignation sex scene. I wasn't sure when I was gonna bring this up, but yes, I did ask him about this because when I found out about it, I chastised myself for not finding out sooner before I did my interview with him. According to Lavachi, this story, just like with Resignation's sex scene, was written for Glip privately, and because it was something that Glip liked. It was then Glip took this story, drew a comic for it, and then posted it online. And then later, they made that story canon. I'm dead serious. Lavachi has since regretted ever writing that story. Now, for the first 2 instances, what really confuses me is why no one stood and spoke out against this sort of thing. But from the Tumblr notes I saw, everyone either liked it silently or was saying things like XD and stuff. Maybe there were some notes of concern that got deleted to time, or maybe out of fear from being called out by Glip's legion of fans, because at this time, Glip was really popular, more popular than they are today, and both them and their followers were very vocal. But really? And this was on their public, not safe for work, their public Tumblr too. That meant everyone could see that, including the comment made about the image. It just sickens me that no one thought to themselves, oh, this is wrong and it should be stopped, so I will do something about it, and just let them continue to do it. Oh, and don't let me forget about the retcon. Yeah, now we're going into PMD-E2 territory. So when doing the lore and stuff for PMD-E2, Glip had to recall certain aspects of the story that they did not like, and that one story I mentioned earlier was a part of it. But they claim they don't remember why they approved of it in the first place, when it's pretty clear that they liked it for how much they drew them being intimate. And then they had the gall to say that Rhodes was the one who had feelings for PK. Okay, well, I have the original story in my to burn in the Christmas fire pile. Let's see what actually happened. Well, Rhodes was concerned about everyone and being worried about how everything sucked in the past. PK tries to comfort him and she gets a hug from him in gratitude. Then literally in the next paragraph she finds him attractive, and then her poncho lights up and she uses that to take advantage of him, and I'm not reading any more of this, you get the idea. What I'm trying to say is that Glip got the details of the story that they approved wrong and tried to spin that history so people would think it was the other way around that happened. And then they cover that up by saying, oh, I'm not going to reread this, I can get the idea by the vibes alone. Which is not a good thing if you're making an adaptation of a work like you're doing right now. What's even worse is that this is going over a very serious topic, like material that includes exploitation of a child. Something that you shouldn't be scoffing over. With topics like this, you have to be very careful with your research and how you present that to other people. That's why I didn't just stick to a couple of examples that everyone knew. I made sure to do as much research as I could so I wasn't forgetting anything that other people should know about the situation. Even if it makes me nauseously uncomfortable, even if this segment makes you very uncomfortable. It's not information that we just can pass up because we don't want to hear about it. It's important to the big picture, and that's why I have to include it. And I think I can end this segment here. I pretty much said everything I can about this, but if there's something that I'm forgetting, please put it in the comments. We'd love some more context on everything that I've explained. There shouldn't be any more ships after that, right? Wait a second, that's a Floorverse character! Yes, it is, but we're still in PMD-E2 territory. I don't have to worry about Floorverse because I'm not versed with that side of the story. All I think I know from that side is that Quixate is a player character and they're in a relationship with one of Glip's characters. Don't make me do extensive research on that. Floorverse stuff makes my head hurt. So when PMD-E2 was being announced and stuff, they did a little roleplay thing with Quixate doing an encounter with PK. That's it really, they just meet for the first time and it's not really all that important. Glip is obsessed with this man, it seems. I have a feeling that these two will be an item in the future, and that Quixate is going to be the second coming of Shroomsworth. I mean, judging from how PK is portrayed in this sequel, I think, it's very clear that she's single. There's no attractive British Breloom by her side. I want to say because he's mine now. And PK is clearly just a self-insert of Glip anyway, so I have no doubts about it. That's not me saying I want to see developments of these two. I would rather a PMD-E2 hosted by Glip and pals not continue at all, but that's just not the world we live in. Shipping characters in this group is a big mess, just like every other aspect of this group's history, go figure. But if you were to ask me what the best ship is, it's no doubt PKX Nin Anarchy. This is the only PMD ship that I will accept, and if you think otherwise, then you are right. It's definitely Fresnel's Gunpowder. You also might be wondering where the hell are the Devonshire ships? There are none. And let's keep it that way.